Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Tom's TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruption over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah as ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Rupert, and Mark Benchcop, David Hinds and Kadaki Amsterdam, Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London, Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Pastor, poor people governor, Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson, Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show. sisters, we will live and die here together. On to one people, one nation, one destiny. For harmonious living, cooperation will be forever. In work and play as we live as proud Guyanese. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. Well, it's time we said all the nations in the interior. Our natural resources are there in great quantity. And we will do farming and establish towns by the border. We'll grow more food so we could fill all Guyanese.
My greatest desire is to serve my country, Guyana, and sincerely help Guyana to move along. Our government asks us, and we study hard and we learn the things that will help Guyana to become strong. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. To help develop Guyana the free.
I'm taking it easy, check my steps, I'm not in a hurry. Soon I'll have the things that I needed so bad. Morning sun rising behind me, stars at night come out to remind me to give thanks for all of the things that I have. All is well, I've got my health and in such good shape. Pockets broken, I've got nothing waiting for that break. So I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, I'm giving thanks now. Right now, the friends I'm surrounded are but few, glad I'm not crowded. Just enough for me to concentrate. One by one, counting my blessings, getting close to goals that I'm setting. If I make mistakes, correct me, don't you hesitate. All is well, I've got my health and in such good shape. Pockets broken, I've got nothing waiting for that break. So I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life I've got, I'm giving thanks now. Yes, I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life I've got, I'm giving thanks now. Oh, right now, I'm taking it easy, Shake my steps, I'm not in a hurry. Soon I'll have the things that I needed so bad. Morning sun rising behind me. Stars at nights come out to remind me to give thanks for all of the things that I had. All is well, I've got my health in such good shape now. Pockets broken, I've got nothing waiting for that break. Now I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life I've got, I'm giving thanks now. Yes, I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, I'm giving thanks now. Well, I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, I'm giving thanks now. Ooh, I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, giving thanks now. Yes, I'm giving thanks, all I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, I'm giving thanks now. Ooh, I'm giving thanks now. All I've got, I'm giving thanks. Whether or not I'm giving thanks for the life in me, I'm giving thanks.
Oh my. All right. Look at that. Run the tracks. Run the tracks, man. Run the tracks.
Living in a world where there is no war, no, oh no. And imagine that everyone you see knows what we're living for. Oh, what a wonderful world it would be, a world of love and peace. Where no evil can abide, only righteousness increase. Yeah, yeah. And we can do it if we only believe. Yes, we can do it if we only agree. It's your will and mine. 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 Imagine that everyone could give as much as they like to get. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And imagine if everyone could learn to show each other respect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, what a wonderful world it would be for you and me. Yeah, yeah. Then even the blind could see, and the deaf man could hear. Boy, oh yeah. We can do it if we only believe. We can do it if we only agree. Your will and mine. 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 Yes, imagine that everyone could love the Most High as your Savior. And imagine if everyone could reverence the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Yeah, yeah. Oh, what a holy world it would be, a world of tranquility. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, what a beautiful world it would be. A world of serenity. We can do it if we only believe. We can do it if we only agree. It's your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine.
Your World and Mine, Luciano. The one before that was the man called Barry Simon. Two of my favorite reggae artists. Yeah, they bring solace, man, to the soul when you listen to them. Man, how you, man? You know how you do? How are you doing? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 7 hours 33. That is 27 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. If you are an 8 o'clock worker, you should be on your way to work. Plus to the office, you're required to get there 10 or 15 minutes ahead of opening time. So wait until opening time and then you run in there, and then is when you start cleaning desk and spraying out cockroach and stuff like that. You're supposed to be at your desk 10 or 15 minutes ahead of opening time. Well settled and relaxed. So when the first client comes to you, you're not in a rush, you're not disoriented and so on and so forth. Morning. How was your weekend? How was the weekend? The weekend started since Wednesday, as far as I'm concerned. But how was your Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Oh, and you had an extended weekend. We here in Ghana had an extended weekend. Monday, right? We had Mashraman in Ghana, what? 56 year, something like that. Ghana's 56th year of being a Republican country. They celebrated, I'm sure they celebrated in style. I personally, I don't do crowds. I've stopped doing crowds quite a long time ago. You know that by now. And so I can't see what the revelry was about and so on, and where the fun was and where the people gathered and so on. But I can tell you in my neck of the woods, on the East Coast and so on, you didn't see too much evidence of a whole lot of people flocking to the city, which had become customary. Right? But I hope people had a good Republic celebration, and I hope people took the time to reflect on what. Man. Good morning. I'm at work from 7 in the morning. How may I help you? Yes, you will get some after night. Oh, Lord, what you going yourself? Good. Yes, as I was saying, I gotta live too, so yeah, I gotta deal with my clients when they call me. Remember, I'm supposed to be at my desk 10 minutes before or 15 minutes before. Yeah, I hope people took the time to reflect on what Republican status meant for us and how much we achieved during the years of embracing the Republican status. I say during the years of embracing the Republican status because I think those years were what one might call the formative years, the Bonham period. From then until whenever Bonham died in 1985, I think. Desmond I took over, and then things started going south, if you ask me that. I think we were a prouder people, a more independent people, a more self-determining people during the years of Bonham. I think the foundation that Bonham has left us has never been matched, and to a large extent, it has not been built up in a proper way. You had a solid foundation, but you throwing out the beams and columns and so on, and walls and so on. We failed miserably. We did not really capitalize on those foundations set. But, it is what it is. I hope people really took the time and reflect on that fact and determine in their minds to chart a new course or to chart some course that could bring us back to a place of national pride and respect for each other as citizens and so on and so forth. That is what I think the Republican anniversary should really be used for. But of course, everybody see it as nothing else but a fit. And I saw a social media post that bothered me because here is a 50-something, 60-something-year-old Indo-Guyanese, and I'm going to say Indo-Guyanese because I must say why. Indo-Guyanese being asked what Public Day means to him. What is, to start with, was the meaning of matrimony. And for the love of me, this big man could not explain to the interviewer, the vlogger, what matrimony means to Guyanese or what the word matrimony means. And instead, saying it's born on birthday. Right? And I am pointing that out because it is part of the propaganda. It is part of the ignorance that has been spewed by many in the PPP in the Indo-Guyanese community. And so we have generations of Indo-Guyanese who, for whatever reason, do not understand what February 23rd means to Guyanese, or what it means to be a Guyanese on February 23rd. People still with this ignorance about Bornum birthday. Bornum was born, my understanding is on the 20th of February, I think. But the 1763 rebellion took place on the 23rd of February. And so Republic Day, Matrimony Day, was named in honor, in commemoration, if I can call it that, of that rebellion. But instead of us teaching our people, and instead of our people learning our proper history so we can promote it and represent it out there, politicians have forced a lot of balderdash in the heads, and big old people in this era of enlightenment, I dare call it, social media, is still propagating that nonsense. Woe be unto the grandchildren of that man. Woe be unto the grandchildren of that man. That's all I can see. Let me, before I proceed, because this morning's program is really, most of it will be dedicated to the memory of Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine, a real doctor, right? Former co-leader and recent elder of the Working People's Alliance, who answered the call yesterday morning, I think. Answered the call, the creator's call, and has departed this earthly realm. Good. All of that to say that Rupert Roopnaraine has died. Many of you, I'm sure, must have read of it or heard of it in the media. And so, yeah, the WP has lost a stalwart. And my intent is to dedicate a large section of this program this morning to his memory. Not that I can tell you a whole lot about Rupert Roopnaraine and his early years in politics and so on. I can perhaps tell you a little about his later years. But Professor David Hinds has been with them as a young man and so on and so forth. And he did a program yesterday morning, and I want to replay that program. So those of you who have not had the benefit of that program will have the benefit of that program. I myself certainly have learned a few things, or have been reminded of a few things about Rupert through that program. Yes. And so we're going to dedicate most of the program to that. But I want to say, those people, let me say, to start with, let me say thank you to those who have contributed to the replacement of the laptop. I collected the laptop on Saturday, and so here we are this morning using it. I can tell you, I feel more comfortable. It's a smoother flow. It's pushing all the devices that it usually is expected to push without a glitch, and so on and so forth. Bills still to be paid, though. Bills still to be paid. We're still a few dollars out. in completing the payment for it. But thank you to that person, you know yourself, who stepped forward and decided, well, they will undertake the purchase and will be reimbursed over time. Right. So thank you for that. We're comfortable. We're going to honor our debts. I can tell you that. Some persons reached out to me yesterday morning and asked, first, because they didn't realize it was the Republic anniversary, and therefore perhaps expected me to be on, reached out and asked why I wasn't broadcasting. I wasn't broadcasting first and foremost because of the Republic anniversary. It's a holiday I chose. I thought, well, I can take a holiday too and relax. Well, go around with that. But most importantly, even if I wanted to, I couldn't because I was caught up assisting the police in an investigation. Um, Assisting the police in an investigation, which I believe I have the responsibility to tell you what transpired. And so, if you notice, there was a photograph up earlier. Let me put it back up, and you will understand what's happening here. That photograph there is a part of my anatomy. Left side under my well, left side under my arm, basically, or left side abdomen, closer to my armpit, here about or midway, wherever. Y'all who know body parts can identify. But that's a stab wound, and there's also a cut, if you might call it that, a laceration in the same vicinity, and that's on my body. Right? What happened? I didn't get into, well, technically, I didn't get into a fight. I wasn't out there looking for trouble and all of that. I'm not a troublesome person. I don't do road unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't do crowds unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't do night unless it's absolutely necessary. So I'm usually in the safety of my home. Those who come here would know that some of you tease me when you come. Mr. Amsterdam, you're on the every lock and key by. Right. So those of you who have come here know the kind of security measures I engage and so on for my own safety, because I know, as they say, I'm a marked man by many friends and cronies of the PPP and so on. But I usually say, unless the Lord watches, the watchman watches in vain. And I think yesterday morning was a good example of that. I'm usually an early riser. I woke about 3:30 there about yesterday morning. Of course, I say I ain't got none to do. I know buck for bean, as we like to say, and I ain't getting out of no bed. But I eventually got out of bed about 4 o'clock. And one of the first things I did was put on the monitor to my cameras. And I saw movements in Club Twilight. Right? I saw movements in Club Twilight. Well, somebody invaded this place. And so I draw from my Planax. And I went into the club. Well, based on the orientation of the cameras, I think I misread one in terms of the direction of where the person was moving. But nevertheless, I proceeded because I say I'm going and handle this matter. As soon as I pushed open the glass door, the intruder bust a sprint, as I would say, heading to the back door, which is east of the club. And I ran them down. Got in before he could get through the gate, get through the fence, because he breached the fence and came in. This person had the face all wrapped up in a black garment, around a black vest and the damaged jeans, as we call it, and so on, 3/4 damaged jeans. And so I ran the person down, ended up in a tussle and so on and so forth. Got him on the ground. In the effort to restrain him, of course, I am above him, and the guy pulled a knife and, push it up, obviously, to cause me injury and so on. But thank God, as they say, I know myself. So I, did what I had to do, and so I didn't get a severe injury. But that is what it is. It could have been worse. It could have been fatal. As I say, I could have been left cold in my own yard for my own property. Because this is a common thief, as I would call him, came in to rob the bar. Because by that time, when at the end of it all, when we checked, he had already moved some loot to the area we breached the fence. One of our tables was already outside. A box of beverage Magnum was by the place there, alcohol, Jack Daniels, and so on. So he had started moving stuff there. So as I say, perhaps it's a real eye opener because they've come face to face with it. This banner was willing to left me cold in my yard for my own stuff. Good? For my own stuff. So we had a tussle there. After I realized he was armed and attempted to stab me or stab me, whichever one will interpret it as, I think I shouted for my son. And, my son came down and together we handled the situation, so on and so forth. He ran away. He got away. Because, as I say, at that time, I'm trying to evade being injured. My son came down with a blade. And so I'm trying to avoid being injured from two persons. The man under me, I got to ensure he don't stab me. And my son with the blade, I got to ensure I don't get chopped and he got two choppings. And so, anyhow, the guy back out and go, man. Get away. What? In all of that, there are lessons to be learned. Because if you look at the video, the structure of the person, the complexion and everything suggests to you that, oh God, my black people got no love. You mean a black brother trying to come in for Robbie and willing to unalive him for his own stuff? But as fate would have it, while I'm at the station making the report, the police brought in two men for similar activities. They got report of similar activities and so forth. And they arrested two men. And they asked me to look at the men and see if any of them was in the place. And as I see, as fate would have it, one of them was the person, one of them was the suspect. The video evidence shows him in the same clothing that he came into my place with. That is what he was arrested wearing. The black garment that he wrapped his face in to avoid detection or recognition was now wrapping his left arm because it was gouged out when he dove through the fence. Right? So he is in police custody. But there is a element of surprise, if you call it that. It's not a black man, It's not a black man. This is a Indian chap, coolie chap, if you want to call it that. Who says he is from Lusignan? So, taking his testimony as true, he's from Lusignan. He left all the way from Lusignan to come to Buxton. He left Ikuli village to come a black man village, come Rababi. Right? And dressed in such a way to give us the impression that I've been Mati black man and Rababi. Only black man is thief. Right? Only black man is thief. I personally, it might be hard to prove, but I see it as a hate crime. I see that as a hate crime. Because it chose not to rob the people in your community. It chose not to rob from Luziknan. You got Annandale, you got Luziknan, you got Corbin Park, you got Annandale West, you got Annandale North and South and all kind of thing. I didn't go there and rob them. Come a black man village. I see that as a hate crime. And you know what is the other thing? It's not one person in this village that was robbed that night. By the same person. Because while we were scouring the area after the incident, we found a cycle in the gutter, as we like say, stashed in the gutter right next to me. And we later found out that that cycle was stolen from somebody on the middle walk earlier the night. So the same man that thief the bicycle come through the side and decide, you know, to come into my place and do stuff. So he's in police custody. And I'm hoping that the police will throw the book at him because I ain't gonna let up. I think this man should be charged with attempted murder. And whoever else, robbery under arms, because he had a weapon. I ain't a liar, I ain't a police, I ain't a law enforcement person, but I think those are some suitable charges, but I'll watch and see what the police does. But I'm alerting you to the fact that there ain't no Guyanese, and it has always been happening. Who some of them cut their hair low and tan themselves to look like black people and go and commit these acts and black people get blamed. Thank God we get a hold of this one. And I hope he faces the consequences. A lot of people saying, but I see people asking if I didn't do him anything and so on and so forth. In the chase down, I broadsided him, and I think that's one of the reasons make I was able to subdue him to some extent. But I incited was the same why you didn't chop. Right? Why you didn't chop? As a matter of fact, one of the police said, "Buddy, we didn't mind if you find this man dead in your yard." That the video and everything shows each offense and he invaded the place and was robbing it. There was a woman shot case. Yeah, but it would have been an woman shot case, but it would have been a torment for me. That is how I see it. Right? That's what people say, you don't want nobody blood on your hands. But at the same time, you have to safeguard your space and safeguard your life. And so there are lots of things I will be rethinking. Because there ain't going to be a next time like that. I guarantee you. There won't be a next time like that. If you manage to breach the fence, you're most likely going to manage to stay in the yard. So I thought I will let you know. So it wouldn't take anybody by surprise. If at any point in time it's reported in the media and so on, it was something I'll let you know what's happening in this environment and with me and so on and so forth. So that's the story out there. 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll come to rob this place or rob me. But like we say, God is good. Because a lot of other people we robbed, maybe at least 2 other persons, there were at least 2 other incidents involving him, as far as I understand. Could now breathe a sigh of relief. Not only did they get back stuff, but the culprit is in the hands of the police. Let's see where it will go from there. Good. It's and so when you hear me say I'm giving thanks and I'm taking it easy and so on and so forth, I got a right to give thanks to life. You look at that. Well, you had to saddle, you had to teach me the years I draw from a planax. right? As I buy my make I drive from a Planax and I chase him down, right? But instead of going with the blade, I went with the side. Sometimes you got to think violence, justifiable violence. Nevertheless, it's 3 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. And like I said, I want to share that program from Professor David Hinds with you in tribute to WPA stalwart and elder, the late now Rupert Roopnaraine.
That I listened to the introductory observations with which the Honorable Finance Minister prefaced this year's budget presentation. Disappointment that his interpretation of last year's performance in the 10th Parliament was so one-sided that it evinced the very intransigence and want of flexibility in national interest that is sought to berate in office. Disappointment, too, that his understanding of what transpired over the early months in the life of the 10th Parliament has led to such a contraction of his vision of the transformative potential of united action. I choose to believe, perhaps in an excess of generosity, that it has been his own disappointment in the dashing of his higher hopes that has led to the reduced expectations we find in this year's prefatory reflections. Let us remind ourselves of the larger, more hopeful expression of the idea of united action in last year's budget speech. And I quote, "The political configuration that emerged from the 2011 elections, whereby the party in government does not hold a clear legislative majority, is a domestic novelty even in similar situations have been experienced by other democracies the world over. This arrangement beckons our country into a new political epoch and heralds an opportunity for the nurturing of a new political culture. The prevailing dispensation will test and hopefully prove our resolve as a people, and within this House, our respective will to serve as responsible representatives of a deserving people, to work together in service to the cause of national development." Not surprisingly, these words drew much comment in last year's debate from members on both sides of the House. To appreciate what I've called the Honourable Minister's contraction of vision, set these words alongside those that seek to speak to this idea in this year's presentation. The vituperative, tendentious paragraph condemning, quote, "the veritable plethora of examples of parliamentary action occasioned at the behest of the opposition's one-seat majority," unquote, has already drawn comment from my colleagues on this side. I say only that the Honourable Minister should not have expected so much so soon. In answer to the theme, "Overcoming Challenges Together, Accelerating Gains for Ghana," and listening to the unfolding debate, I'm strengthened in the belief that the most crucial challenge we face in this House and in the nation is a challenge to forge the togetherness required to confront the challenges of development. We will not overcome challenges together until we confront and overcome the challenge of togetherness itself. It is the prior challenge. Before I attempt to address some of the policy and operational issues surrounding the low-carbon development strategy, and then the mining and agricultural sectors, it would be useful to look briefly at the fundamental principles relating to land use policy and the management of natural resources. Budget 2013 gives primacy of place to the multidimensional low-carbon development strategy. In Section B, Paragraph 4.2, it's referred to as the paradigm overarching policy framework. Intended as it is to serve as that overarching policy framework, the strategy must be informed by and predicated on an integrated approach to land use management with the following objectives: to ensure avoided deforestation and degradation, to guarantee the provision of ecosystem services, to promote the responsible exploitation of natural resources, to invest in the creation and promotion of enterprises which have a low carbon footprint, to ensure the conservation of biodiversity, and to ensure inclusive and sustained development for the benefit of all citizens and future generations. For such an integrated approach to land use planning and effective implementation of the low carbon development strategy, an absolute prerequisite is transparent dialogue and ongoing discussions at all levels so that communities, regions, public and private sectors are informed and have their perspectives and expectations taken on board. The parliamentary opposition must be engaged in an ongoing way by the government in free and frank dialogue and discussions on the evolution and implementation of the strategy. This should be done through the sector committees of this National Assembly, and I would suggest, given the centrality of the strategy, a special select committee on the low carbon development strategy. The outcome of such dialogue and negotiation must reflect the nation's interests and the will of the people. After all, Mr. Speaker, land, including maritime assets and airspace, is the national patrimony, and use of these resources must of necessity generate confidence among citizens rather than promote fear, well-grounded or not, that Guyana is being taken over by foreigners or that corrupt and discriminatory practices dictate how land is allocated and resources managed. Before I leave the issue of land use, allow me to quote from the December 2012 summary of the report of the Development of Land Use Planning Project, entitled Guyana National Land Use Plan. On page 5 of the report, this is a document, a summary report of the Development of Land Use Planning Project, DLUPP. It's been circulated by the Lands and Surveys Commission. On page 5 of the report, under the head Legal and Institutional Issues, it says this: a legislative review of laws and regulations related to land use planning found that 1. Land use planning is the subject of obsolete legislation that neither reflects contemporary planning practice nor meets the needs of Guyana, and that Guyana is in dire need of comprehensive new land use planning legislation. The development of a national intersectoral land use planning system is an obligation under the MOU with the government of Norway as part of the RED Plus process in pursuing the LCDS. An institutional review concluded that the institutional framework is dysfunctional, largely due to ad hoc sectoral legislation rather than legislation policy. The regulatory and institutional framework is inadequate, with missing policies and coordination, as well as duplicated regulatory responsibilities. Control over land use is highly centralized and politicized. GLSC is empowered rather than required to do things. It is not guided by strategic level performance measures, has struggled to achieve financial sustainability, and has weak enforcement.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Matrimony, happy Republic Day to all of us. It's a day when we should be celebrating our Republican status. But today we also mourn the loss of one of the leading voices of our post-colonial experience, one of our leading voices of our independence and our our Republican status, Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine, who passed away early this morning, 2:15. He was 83 years old, and anyone who has followed public life in Guyana from the 1970s to the present would be familiar with his name and his presence. He was a leading member of the WPA from the time he returned to Guyana in 1977 up until the present. He was part of the Working People's Alliance as executive member, as co-leader, as member of parliament. WPA joins with the rest of Guyana, the Caribbean, and the progressive world at large in mourning the passing of this towering figure of our independence. As many would know, Dr. Roopnaraine has been ailing for the last few years, but he continued to keep on and to struggle. And finally, today, he took his flight. We remember Rupert Roopnaraine, Rupert to us, as one of the unique figures of our politics and society in the last 5 decades. He was WPA, but he belonged to Guyana, and he took his Guyanese identity very seriously. Dr. Roopnaraine was an educator, an artist, a political activist. His legacy is enormous, but I want to zero in today, this morning, in these early hours after his passing, on what I consider to be his monumental contributions. The first thing I want to say about Rupert was that if any public figure in Guyana transcended race and ethnicity, it was Rupert Roopnaraine. Even for someone like myself who takes ethnicity and race very seriously, it was difficult for me to conceive of Rupert as an Indian, an East Indian. He was. He never ran away from his East Indian identity. Many people may think that he did not take his East Indian identity seriously. He did. He was East Indian, we knew. But he had a way of transcending race and ethnicity. He was very comfortable among Black people. And that tremendous capacity, very comfortable. He was equally comfortable among East Indians and Amerindians and people of other races and ethnicity, but significantly, he was one of the few public figures that was comfortable among Black people. You knew that Rupert wasn't putting on when he was among African Guyanese. He was just comfortable. And I think that gave his politics a uniqueness that many others did not have, in that he could empathize with the sufferings of all of the peoples across race and ethnicity. I once, so many times I heard Rupert said, if there's one dogma in the WPA, it is that we will not move until all the races in Guyana move together. And he lived that out in his political life. He lived that out. He was a believer in the multi-ethnic solutions of Guyanese politics. And he didn't stay where he was and speak to other ethnicities. He was always there in the trenches. He would remind me so many times of the many godchildren he had in Buxton. One of my sons is his godchild. So I think that is the first legacy, is legacy of transcending race and ethnicity in a very racialized and ethnicized society. And I think it was a tremendous feat and something that will enrich our politics if we were to rise as a nation and live out that promise. The second thing about Rupert and Roopnaraine I would like to point out was his optimism about a multi-party solution. We talk about multi-ethnicity just now. It's believed that all the parties in Guyana, the PPP and the PNC and the WP and others could work together. As early as 1990, when the life of the government of that time had come to an end and there were electoral reforms that could not be put in place in time for the election. And Rupert and the WPA proposed that instead of the government of the time continuing beyond its mandated tenure, that while we awaited the electoral reforms, that there should be a national government of the PPP, the PNC, the WP and other forces. And when we took the proposal to the PPP, they said the PNC would never agree to it. Rupert was optimistic, and he led the WPA delegation that went to see Mr. Hoyt. And Mr. Hoyt agreed to that national government. He agreed to the WPA proposal. We proposed that, that we have an interim government of all parties, and that he, Hoyt, as the incumbent president, should remain president. Dr. Jagan may be becoming the prime minister. And to the surprise of many, as I said, Mr. Hoyt agreed, and it was Rupert who was, the WPA agreed, but Rupert was our leading voice, and he led the delegation that met with Mr. Hoyt. Later on, when we were faced with a similar situation in 1997, after the 1997 election, and we had the court case that said the use of electronic ID cards was unconstitutional, and the PPP was forced through the Ord-Munson Accord to give up 2 years of its office. Rupert again suggested in the National Assembly that instead of going back to an election very quickly, or the PPP continuing on, that there should be a national government for the 2 years that was cut off from the PPP. The PPP, of course, blocked that. They said, no way. And I gave those examples to show that Rupert Roopnaraine was the consummate multi-party national government advocate. It is now more than a footnote in history. It is now a historical fact that the architects of what we now know as the APNU were Rupert Roopnaraine, Clive Thomas, and Robert Corbin. They tried to work on what was called a third force. Before that, they didn't get very far with it. But when Robert Corbin approached the WPA, Corbin Roopnaraine and Clive Thomas sat down and hammered out a partnership for national unity, which is now a household name in our politics. I think Rupert was the person who gave the coalition that name, a partnership for national unity. We remember him as the prime ministerial candidate for the APNU in 2011 with Brother David Granger as the presidential candidate. And we remember Rupert on that campaign trail, really carrying the torch for the APNU, galvanizing the crowds. We remember his refrain, "No place for Donald, no place for Donald," referring to Donald Ramotar, who was then the presidential candidate of the PPP. And the fact, Rupert pointing out the fact that in none of the PPP governments up to that time did they find a place for Donald Ramotar. And Rupert would regale the crowds. No room for Donald. He was, with all due respect to Brother David Granger, Rupert was the live wire in that campaign. And as we know, the results of the 2011 election brought the PPP into minority status because the AFC and the APNU got a majority in parliament. The APNU AFC would coalesce before the 2015 election and go on to win that election, a slight majority. Rupert became Minister of Education. He had begun to introduce some new reforms in the education system, but he took ill and had to be relieved of that position. He was named as the head of the public service, but by then his health had begun to deteriorate and he was not able to finish his term. So that's the second legacy of Rupert, the eternal optimist that a national solution in the form of a national government, and he spent a lot of his political energies working for that. Rupert Roopnaraine was a great political communicator, one of the best. I would argue that alongside Forbes Burnham, Rupert is the next colorful orator. As you know, he studied the English language and he didn't make joke with that. He had a way with words and phrases, which made him a consummate communicator. When he started out, I remember in the 70s, it was a little bit, he had been out of Guyana for about 15 years and he had come back. And it took him a little while to get into his stride. But once he got into his stride, there was not a better political communicator than Rupert Roopnaraine. Yeah, I remember going with him in the villages and hear him speak, and you would hear the men, and especially in the villages, in both Indian and African communities, why the man could talk, And political communication is an important aspect of political activism. It is the ability to get people to listen to you and to be able to explain complex things in the public sphere. He was a great political communicator. What is not known much, because this is internal, he was a great political organizer, organizing the party. There's a popular thing that the WPA died when Walter Rodney died. Well, when Walter Rodney died, the WPA was not even a political party. They had just called themselves a political party, became a political party in July of 1979, but there wasn't a party. There weren't party groups across the country at the time of Walter's murder. But after Walter died, the party broadened, expanded. We formed party groups up and down the country. The party became a party after Walter Rodney died. It's difficult because people repeat something, you know. The WPA died when Walter Rodney died. WPA. And Rupert was one of the leading organizers going around the country, forming groups. And like I said, he was comfortable in all communities. He would go into Indian communities among sugar workers. And then he would go among bauxite workers in Linden, and he was equally comfortable. So he was one of our leading organizers, building the party, building party groups, building the party capacity. So that's the third legacy, the fourth legacy, I think, of Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine, tremendous political organizer of his time. Rupert, of course, was your quintessential Caribbean radical of the 70s and the 80s and going forward. Steeped in working class ideology loosely called Marxism, but he was equally steeped in a Caribbean philosophy, a pan-Caribbean outlook of the world, that you are from the Caribbean, these islands. And coming from these islands, these post-plantations, there's a particular view of the world, and Roopnaraine had that view, a Caribbeanist view. So his Marxism was tempered by a Caribbean worldview. So to understand a Rupert Roopnaraine, you have to understand the coalescing of Marxism and Caribbeanism and anti-imperialism, which made him and those of his generation unique, the Caribbean radical tradition. That's what Rupert Roopnaraine came out of, the Caribbean radical tradition, and he carried that torch for the rest of his life. Rupert was not just a political activist. He was an academic par excellence, trained in languages, English, and literature. He, in his time, was the expert on Martin Carter's poems. I, as a young man, learned a lot about Martin Carter poetry and poetry in general from Rupert Roopnaraine. I had gotten some early training of it at school through some of my teachers. But when I met Rupert, who, you know, some of Martin Carter's poems were difficult to figure out, and Rupert was the expert on Martin Carter. In fact, his film, his documentary, The Terror and the Time, because apart from an educator, he made films. He was part of a group called the Victor Hara Collective, and they made the documentary The Terror and the Time. And they used Martin Carter's poems as the soundtrack, along with the Yoruba singers, for the documentary The Terror and the Time. Rupert was, you know, what you call a bright boy, the tremendous mind. You know, one of the things when Rupert got sick was, we all kept saying, you know, you don't see that mind that we saw, we grew up with. Tremendous intellect, the ability to analyze things, the ability to see the complexity and bring them together. Roopnaraine was a giant. And he was a giant among giants because in the WPA alone, you had the likes of the Rodneys and Guyanas and Clive Thomases, Maurice Odlo, Josh Ramsamy, Moses Bagwan and Daye, Bonita Harris. These were all great intellects. And Rupert was part of that pantheon. He taught at the University of Guyana. And what is not well known, he left the university, left his job to become a full-time activist. That is not well known. Sacrifice, personal sacrifice. Rupert was jailed many times, like many WPA people. He was locked up and down Guyana. I think his favorite, well, not favorite, the place that he was locked up the most is Weldad police station. Because every time we would be going up to Berbice and so on, they would stop us at Weldad, detain you for 6 hours, so you wouldn't get in time for the meeting. And it was difficult to get around West Berbice, you know. But Rupert was locked up so many times. Of course, he was charged for arson in 1980, along with Walter Rodney and Omowale, Dr. Omowale, and he was later freed of that charge. But as all revolutionaries, he had his time in jail. So he left his job at the University of Guyana to become a full-time political activist. But he continued to do academic work, going overseas and giving talks and lectures and so forth. And as I said, he was also an artist. He wrote poetry, he wrote prose, and he made films. I think Maha Shivratri is another of his films, an Indian film. And he had a couple of other documentaries that he made. So Rupert was a rounded individual. He was a Renaissance man. What is also not well known is that he was a formidable cricketer, played for Cambridge Blues. Then he was a student there, played at the highest level. Many thought that he would have gone on to play for the West Indies had he chosen to play cricket. He would tell me that in the 1966 tour of the West Indies to England, and the West Indies played Cambridge, and he played for Cambridge, and that he bowled Gary Sobers, he bowled off breaks. So he was a Renaissance man, And the thing about people like that is that it was always a joy to be with Rupert. I had the privilege of campaigning with him. Some of my best time was when I would leave Buxton and go to Mahika where he lived, and we would go to West Berbice. This was around the 2011 election. And we would go into the West Berbice villages. There was a doctor there. I have to, he was a good friend of Rupert. He was an animal doctor. I think he's still alive and he's still there in West Berbice. His name escapes me now. But he and others would take us around in the villages in West Berbice. And I've told the story many times where when we got into the villages and the people would tell us, you know, Doc, I'm glad you all joined and formed the APNU because we now don't have to choose between Burnham people and Guyana people. Some would say Sydney King people. And I remember coming back from those meetings when Rupert would hear that testimony. And Rupert was not a very emotional person. One of the few times I would see him emotional, and he would say, you know, David, you know, we are engaged in struggle and we are working for the betterment of our country, but we don't always know what's the effect of our activism. Here were people who were hamstrung by the fact that they had to make a choice sometimes between the WP and the PNC, between, as they say, Burnham and Guyana, Burnham people and Guyana people. And I think that lesson, those lessons, instilled in Rupert that it was the correct thing to do to form the APNU. Searching for a national government was the correct thing to do. There was the lighter side of Rupert always. He was a good, couldn't, engage in small talk. So there's the human side of him, hang out, and he wasn't a drinker. So there was no drinking, but he could have a good time and so on. So we mourn the loss of Rupert Roopnaraine. While he walked Guyana and walked the earth, he made a tremendous contribution to his country. I would argue that Guyana is better in many regards because of Rupert Roopnaraine. Better because of Rupert Roopnaraine. It's maybe difficult for a lot of people, because Rupert is a contemporary of Walter Rodney and Clive Thomas and Dye and Maurice Odlund, Josh Ramsamy, Guyana, Bagwan, Bonita Bone, Jocelyn Dow, and others. And so therefore they're all stars. But Rupert was a star among stars. And he carved out his own niche in the annals of Guyanese politics. He was on the progressive side of our politics. Always looking to make life better for the poor and the powerless. Always searching for the route to freedom. I could call Rupert my mentor, I could call him my friend, my colleague. We knew this day was coming, but we hoped that it would not come so soon. He was just 83 years old. He has gone back to the ancestors. As I said, Guyana is better because of him. His death may simultaneously, perhaps paradoxically, make Guyana poorer. Guyana is poorer with his loss. Because although he has not been active in the last decade or so, just his very presence, his name, meant something in our politics. Unity, civility, intellectual curiosity, bravery. Brother Rupert has gone home. Martin Carter said, "Death will not find us thinking that we die. Too soon, the banner draped for you. I would prefer the banner in the wind, not bound so tightly in a starlit fold, not sudden with my people's tears, but flashing on the pole. We bear aloft, down and beyond this dark lane of rags. Dear brother, if it must be that you speak no more with us, nor smile no more with us, nor march no more with us, then let me take a patience and a calm, for even now the greener leaf explodes, sun brightens stone, and all the river borns. Now from the morning vanguard moving on, we salute you and we say death will not find us thinking that we die. Farewell, my brother. Take your flight and you're gone. We who are still left here will continue to do what we can do to make your dreams that were not realized during your sojourn realities.
Or effective, and the existence of special interest agencies such as the NNA further complicates matters. All stakeholders seem dissatisfied with the current arrangements, but there is no existing model from elsewhere that fits Guyane's needs. Mr. Speaker, the Budget 2013 speech is replete with the arithmetical wizardry, not to say legerdemain, for which the gifted Honorable Finance Minister has earned a well-deserved reputation. What is missing, Mr. Speaker, is a strategic exposition of the increasing problems in key areas, such as the chronically underperforming sugar and electricity sectors. Instead, there is the impression of trying to plug holes rather than developing and implementing rationalized route maps to provide long-term development. There is no overall sense of the Ministry of Finance developing and rationalizing options, selecting best options according to clearly articulated criteria, and then proposing priorities. If we were following an agreed strategic plan, and especially one that was reflective of an integrated approach to development, the minister should have been reporting on deliverables that ought to have been targets for 2012, the actual performance against these targets, explanations for surpluses or shortfalls, and the rationale for adjustments that would have to be made in 2013, thus providing justification for the 2013 estimates of expenditure. In the absence of such a systematic approach, Mr. Speaker, there is a danger of incoherence, in the sense that proposals in some sectors operate directly against other sectors or intentions. This is nowhere more evident than in the competing interest for land required by investors for mega agricultural projects in the intermediate savannas, the Kanji Basin, and the Rupert. The Ministry of Agriculture currently assesses the feasibility of a project, but land allocation is the preserve of the Ministry of Natural Resources, creating an impasse that is frustrating to local and overseas investors. The inherent conflict in the forestry and mining sectors is a legacy of not having a land use policy. It's now being tidied up, I understand, so that logging concessions were awarded without recognizing that the GGMC had already given out mining permits in the same concessions. In the absence of baseline data related to biodiversity, endemism, and ecosystem services, the impacts of logging and mining on the environment cannot be accurately determined, since there is little or no generic data against which to analyze data now being collected, albeit inadequately and irregularly, because of the limited number of field personnel deployed by the GGMC, GFC, and the EPA. The other complication is that there are a number of instances where mining concessions have been awarded prior to the issuance of title plans to Amerindian communities. This resulted from lack of sharing of information that would have excised such concessions from title land, or alternatively, through free, prior, and informed consent, and transparently conducted negotiations, a way forward could have been found to allow mining with safeguards and penalties that are enforced. While I have some ideological sympathy with the rhetorical insistence that the funds from Norway are payment for services and not development aid. It has to be said that in the absence of a commercial contract, the current arrangement is vulnerable to changing politics in hospitals, and the Honorable Minister of Finance should exercise caution in treating the Norwegian money as if its flow is only his country. Because payments are based on the extent to which Guyana has managed the avoidance of or reduction of deforestation and degradation, we need to examine the extent to which policies and practices have been implemented to reduce foreign-based carbon emissions. And here I wish to make the point that feel free to stop the clock while I check my bill. Yeah, I wish to make the point that we need information, Mr. Speaker, on what the actual acreage is.
Thank you for staying tuned. Listening, that was Professor Dr. David Hinds, the Member of Parliament representing the WP as part of the coalition in the National Assembly currently, and co-leader of the Working People's Alliance, reflecting and paying tribute to the life and work of Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine, who himself was MP Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine. And so I'm sure you would have learned, many of us would have learned, and we would have been reminded many things about Rupert Roopnaraine, Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine. It is now 50 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. I am sure, or I would want to assume that some of you would like to call and add to that tribute. And so the lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Anslan. 6225933 is the number to call. The lines are open. Hello, and good morning. Caller, you're on. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, brothers and sisters in Guyana. Happy holiday. I just calling to make something short because I know I got to respect the program today. So I'll be taking back my time tomorrow. I want to thank God that He saved you. And God did not make it happen so worse because we would have missed you for this program and for other things too. So thank God He saved you. That is one. And two, I want to give my condolence to all the families and friends and relatives, to our loving Indian brother. I will use the word that this morning. And may its soul rest in. Thank you very much. And I will take back my time tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
As if you left timey. Wanna enjoy your day. Thank you for your call, Flash Garden. And like I say, the lines remain open. 6225923 is the number to call. We're still tuned to the Guyanese morning time. Six two two 5923 is the number to call. You're tuned to the Guyanese morning time. Taking a few calls from you. As we remember, Dr. Rupert Roopnaraine,
Morning, everybody. And I would like to extend profound condolences on the loss of the brother from the WPA. His family takes strength in this time. And I want us not to forget the good things that he had done, that he did. And he fought for a common cause. And I will extend profound sympathy and condolences. And may his family be strengthened at this time in his loss. Like all Guyana.
thank you for your call, Rhonda. 6225923 is the number to call. You're still tuned to the Guyanese morning time. It is 11 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing
Yeah, yeah, good morning.
these songs?
Morning to that king. Buxtonian said to my family one of the this week, I think, yes. My sister died yesterday, so we were all in the morning time. And so I'm just saying God is good and let's be strong. Be strong. The work have to continue. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for your call. Thank you, caller. The lines remain open 6225933 is the number to call. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. I remain your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. 8 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. We can do a couple more calls as we continue to remember life and work. Dr. Rupert, good morning.
All pirates, yes, they rabbi, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Ooh, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop at the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Yes, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all
Marian, good
I
morning.
ever have,
Good morning to all.
redemption songs.
Before I say condolences to the family of Dr. Roopnaraine and to all his brothers. We know we have lost a good soldier, but God is in charge and all is well. May his soul rest in peace and give comfort to the bereaved. Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
You're welcome.
It's 3 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour, and this is where I'll take my leave of you. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your calls, your support, your encouragement. Stay safe, be strong. Condolences behalf of myself and supporters of the program and my own family, to the family of Brother Rupert and the WPA family and the Guyanese people. I know it's a profound loss, but I would wish that we all take the time to reflect on his work, his sacrifices, and as we like to see, take a page out of his book and work towards a country that we can say is unified, a government that is represents the national unity and equity and fairness and, some of the ideals that Brother Rupert stands for. It's 2 minutes to the 8 o'clock, to the 9 o'clock hour, and I'll take my leave of you, but I'll leave you with Redemption Song. I think this is one of the songs I can remember enjoying in our presence whenever we visited Buxton and whenever there were certain occasions and stuff. Redemption Song. Like I said, I can't tell you too much about his early years, but I think Professor Dr. Hinds has done a tremendous job in memorizing his work.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Ooh, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop at the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Yes, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs. All I ever had, redemption songs. These songs of freedom, songs of freedom.